Good evening and welcome to this evening's town hall meeting. My name is Corey Korn and I serve as the Chief of Staff for Mayor Collier and will be your moderator tonight. The regularly scheduled council meeting was canceled by the council president. In response to this change and to give our community an opportunity to be heard, the mayor's office scheduled this town hall so you, our citizens, have a platform to share your concerns. The focus for tonight's meeting is public safety and streets. We will touch on ARPA and how these funds can be used to help these departments meet the needs of our city. There's a lot of information to share, and we want to answer as many questions as possible. But before we begin, let's hear a few words from a man who needs no introduction, the mayor of our great city of Lawrence, Steve Collier.
How about now? Thanks each of you for coming, because to me, one of the most important parts of municipal government, local government, is that we are the most answerable to our constituents. We are your direct link, your direct line to be able to get some things done for the city. And if we don't stay in communication with you guys, we're not doing a very good job as government officials. As you're about to find out, and I'm going to be real brief tonight, I have a great staff, and I'm real proud of what we've been able to get done. I have to brag a little bit on Sharon, who's become easily my favorite counselor, because she is the epitome of what it means to be a counselor in the city of Lawrence. She is at everything. Despite the presence of her husband, Fred, she's a great example of what it takes. So you're going to find out here quickly about how good we are, and we want to try and get everything answered for you that we can. So I'm going to be quiet now and hand it back to you, Corey.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Before we get to the nuts and bolts of this evening, let's set the expectations for this town hall. Then we will jump into the purpose of why you are here, to learn more about public safety and streets, and to get your questions answered. Members of the mayor's team will address your concerns this evening, and we will share where you can report information in case you want to share anything with us. There were a few questions submitted online. These questions will be answered, as well as any other questions that you have, assuming time permits. If you did not have an opportunity to submit your questions online, you can still do so. We ask that you submit the questions in writing so we can group them by category at the end. Caitlin Glacier, I have to say her new name, she just got married this past weekend, is here to collect the questions. So there are forms in the back and pens. Also, if you just raise your hand, she'll be happy to give you a form. Again, our goal is to answer as many questions as possible. Answers to the questions received both online and this evening will be available on our city's website with their answers no later than Monday, June 12th. We ask that we keep order throughout the evening to allow for an efficient, informative session. Tonight's panelists will be available after the town hall for individual concerns. Now it's time to introduce our participants. Right in front of me, as I look at the back of his head, Dave Hoffman, Deputy Mayor. Then we have Jim Hennigan, Director of Streets. Sharon Freeman, Council Person representing District 3. Dino Batalis, why do I always do that, Dino? Chief of our Fire Chief. Then we have our Deputy Police Chief, Gary Woodruff. Also in the audience, we have Tyler Douthit, our Controller. Jared, our tech guy here, Communications, Manager of Communications. Caitlin, formerly Voller, now Glacier, our City Attorney. Our new Police Chief, Chief Curtis Bigsby. And then also, over there in the corner, we have Paul Warner. He is from our Streets Department. I excuse me, water utilities. What am I thinking there? It was the matching shirts you gentlemen are wearing. And then we have Eric Martin, our Director of Parks. And I think I got everyone. Oh, Kathy, thank you. And our elected official here, as well as Sharon. And the mayor, we have Kathy Walton, our city clerk. So we have lots of people here to answer your questions, and we're happy to do that all evening long. So now, why focus on streets and public safety? Not only were these departments the main concerns expressed in our first town hall back in April, but there is also, these departments are in the ARPA proposal that is on the council agenda. And so we really wanted to make sure that we're addressing what you, our citizens, and what our department heads are telling us that we need to be addressing as a city. If you would like a copy of the resolution and the proposal, they're located in the back of the room. If you were unable to pick one up, when you came in, they're there and you can get one as a reference as you leave this evening, or you can get up. It's a pretty casual and formal feel, so if you want to grab one, feel free to do so. So Dave, our first question is for you. What exactly is ARPA and what is its purpose?
So ARP is the American Rescue Plan. It's an acronym for the relief that the federal government gave to local municipalities and states as a result, obviously, of the coronavirus fiscal impact that devastated a lot of communities. It was a federal funding program that allowed communities to pay first responders, to pay necessary workers, to invest in infrastructure, streets, roads, broadband in some situations as well. That didn't apply to the city of Lawrence, but there were a lot of rules by which these funds could be used, and certain dates and times and restrictions for when those funds had to be encumbered, in other words, dedicated to use, and then other dates where projects actually have to be complete. So we're right in the middle of our spending of our ARP funds. Those are overseen by the fiscal body of every community. In this case, it's the Common Council. The mayor of the municipality can make recommendations, and then it goes to the council for approval. Now, the city of Lawrence received roughly $11.2 million in ARP funding, and you've seen, maybe, hopefully, if you've driven around Lawrence, you've seen a lot of the improvements that have happened as a result of that. We still have about $6 million left in spending to do. We were hoping to do some this year. Did I say that correctly? 6 or 5 that we have yet to do, Tyler? 5.6, oh, I was right in the middle. 5.6, we've got $5.6 million yet to spend. We had hoped this year in 2023 to get about half of that spent on projects and get things going, right? We had a proposal that was tabled. So 2024 is going to be a big year for ARP spending in the city of Lawrence. You're gonna see major improvements in our city as a result of that spending. We can get really in the weeds with the plan and the exact dollar amounts and where everything is going to be happening. We can do that offline. It's kind of, I don't want to take up the whole night here with the specifics. We will obviously be around afterwards to discuss those details. Our city controller is here. He's the money guy. He's the numbers guy. He can tell you with precision exactly how our spending is going to go. But that's kind of an overview of the American Rescue Plan funding, spending in Lawrence, and we're looking forward to a lot of positive things happening.
Thank you, Dave. I am going to throw you a bit of a curveball here because I do want to share an overview of what we are looking to do. So we do have $1 million in a CCMG, which is a Community Crossings matching grant that we would like to do. We also have some more spending for a matching grant for trail improvement. We were awarded $1.7 million from the DNR, and so this is part of our responsibility and part of that match we need to do. And then you'll see the lion's share is in public safety. So again, why are we here tonight? Because number one, you told us at the last town hall that streets and public safety were a concern. And Two, we also believe that we have critical needs and issues in these areas that we want to be able to spend some of this ARPA money. So we wanted to share with you, the public, and allow you to ask questions on how we can make sure that we achieve these goals for you, our citizens.
Corey, can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely.
So CCMG, we talk about that here in the Government Center all the time. People may not know what that is. It's Community Crossings Matching Grant. It's a state-funded program for infrastructure. As long as communities can match the funds, they'll give us up to $1 million, and I think that's going to go up next year. So this year, we had hoped to use ARP funds to match our state grant, right? That would free up our budgeted streets department, our DPW, the dollars that we use to operate, that would free those dollars up to operate and to do projects, right? Well, we didn't get our ARP funding this year to match the $1 million grant, so we had to dip into our budget, which was highly inefficient and ineffective, and it was really such a shame that the ARP spending for 2023 got pulled out from underneath us. Everywhere I go, people talk to me about connectivity, trails, having routes that connect to other communities, and as you can tell right there, almost $300,000 was supposed to be spent this year for trail development that will not be. So we're hoping next year we're just going to double down on that kind of investment. And finally, if you can see that screen, I'm not sure, but public safety vehicle replacements, I believe there's a fire engine in there and up to about 10 police cars. We're not getting them this year. Those are things, very interestingly, by the way, you don't just go down to Sharp Board or Capital City and buy a police car off the lot. It has to be ordered months in advance. They're very slow to come in. Once we receive them, we have to send them off to a company that will outfit them, that will put police stickers on them that match obviously our department, and the lights, the siren boxes, all that stuff that goes in there, the laptop mounts. It takes months for that to happen. So when we got that pulled away from us this year, it was not helpful, and we're going to try to catch up next year. And you can see the other things that are on there. We're having to dip into our budgeted funds where we could have had that ARP funding this year. So thank you for providing that detail up there, Corey.
It is never too late, and that is one of the reasons why we're here. We are hoping that we get this approved in the near future. All right, so now let's talk about streets. Again, since we met at the last town hall, we were awarded the grant, and now we're going to have hear from Jen Hannigan, our Director of Streets, to talk about ways we repair our streets, some of our recently completed projects, and some upcoming paving projects.
I wish I could tell you all that potholes they're not going to go away. We're going to have them. Well, over the years, we're filling the same potholes over and over. Now it's time to strip patch. What strip patching is, you mill it out and you put area over a bigger area. Then you, in the 2 or 3 years, then you come back and repave it. You've already got your sub base done. You can come back and repave the road and you're good. Right now, we're just filling potholes. We're throwing money away, basically. And we're trying to get the ARP money because we did lose, the CMG had to go towards our community crossing grant. That wasn't a choice. So we're hoping to get the ARP money to do a lot of strip patching. I get emails every 3 or 4 times a week on Carroll Road. I don't know if any of you people are from Carroll Road here, 79th, 75th. It's terrible. It's terrible. We can't patch it anymore. It's outlived its usefulness. It's done. We got the strip patching. So that's what we're doing now, and we're trying to get that done. Hopefully we'll get that done, but I can't promise you it's going to happen, but I would like to see it happen. Repaving projects this year, Franklin Road is on the CMG this year. So hopefully, when we say July, and after the 4th, it's going to start. So that's going to be really good. And a lot of neighborhoods west of Franklin Road that has been in dire need of it for years. I've been trying to repatch them. It's just beyond. It's just we're done. It's not going to last. Stuff we have done: 79th Street, 75th, Indian Lake area. We've done that. We've done Chesapeake. Years past, we've done Sunnyside. We just done this administration. We've done a lot of street repairs, and it's awesome. And I don't know if you guys have seen, but we're sweeping the streets now. Have you guys seen the street sweepers out? Yeah, so that's now, and we're getting a lot. That's all works into the street maintenance side. So, but yeah, that's about the nutshell there. We need the ARPA money to get strip patching done to fix roads that we just cannot patch anymore. And my budget for pothole patching is like $30,000 left this year. So, how far can I stretch it? Not far. We need help, bad. The city needs help.
Thank you, Jim. So you can see streets have a lot of needs, but also how do citizens let us know that their areas need help, that they need some repaving, some potholes, those kinds of things? You can go online and you can put in through our web portal right on our homepage. You'll see report potholes. You can go ahead and do that or any other street issues. But you can also talk to your council member. So Sharon, if you can share how you work with your citizens in your district in District 3 to share issues that they might have and things that you've done to help them.
Okay, my constituents usually call me on the phone. They either text me or email me, and I get back to them within a matter of 72 to 48 hours. I keep chalk in my car, so when I see a chuck hole, I get out and circle it with my, yes I do.
And that helps. It helps.
So that's how I do things with my community. And then I see a couple of my constituents here, and they keep me informed because I can't be everywhere. So, and I even help other districts too. They call me, and I'm like, well, your district person is so-and-so, but I will relay the message, and I can tell you what to do and who to contact.
Thank you, and I hope that's informative. We have our 6 districts represented by a council member. We also have 3 at-large council members, and so they are here to serve you. And we appreciate, as the mayor said, how many things you are at, because that allows our citizens, allows you as constituents to be able to interact with a council member, to be able to help us run the city better. So thank you, and thank you for being here today. Now let's shift our conversation. Oops, before we do that, wanted to show you one quick thing. This map up here, the green shows the area, and it lists the streets in that green area of what will be paved with our Community Crossing Matching Grant, the CCMG. So when you look at that, you see that's a small part. But the yellow all the way throughout identifies other areas that need the strip patching. So if the funds we have, because we must match this grant, go to the CCMG there, we cannot get to all those areas in the yellow to do that strip patching. And that is why we need the help of ARPA this year to be able to get this done. You can see that there will be missed opportunity without ARPA funding in all these communities if, in fact, we do not get that this year. Okay, so now we're going to turn our discussion and shift it over to public safety. We're going to start with a question that was submitted online from Heidi Melms. The question is, does LPD have a mobile surveillance trailer? If so, how would a neighborhood with a pool or park that has had a sudden surge in teen-kid fights, violence, and mischief officially request one? Also, are their trailers actively monitored or just something to reference after something happens? Deputy Chief Woodruff, the city has recently been in the news for some acts of violence. In addition to responding to Ms. Melms' question, please share what LPD is doing to address these senseless acts of violence and share what residents can do to help our police department address these issues.
Thank you, Corey. Let's talk about the mobile surveillance trailer first. And we do not have a mobile surveillance trailer. What we do have, though, are some neighborhood signs that we have put in neighborhoods before and have had pretty good success with. They measure people's speeds when it comes to speeding vehicles through neighborhoods, which has historically been one of our biggest complaints that we've received from citizens. In regards to speeding through neighborhoods. Those signs will flash, will put up a person's speed, and they also collect data as well that help our officers kind of pinpoint when we are seeing peak activity. Somebody will call or email into Mayor Mail or call the police department and complain they're speeding in Winding Ridge or in whatever neighborhood they might be referring to, and we try to get a little bit more data out of either the complaining person or we appreciate those complaints. That's how we direct officers on where to go when we get those complaints to address those issues. We certainly do that, but the data collection boxes not only show the speeds of the vehicles going through there at the moment, but they also collect that data so we can kind of pinpoint. It's really helped us in a lot of neighborhoods, give us an idea on when peak conditions are occurring where people are speeding through that neighborhood. The other thing it does is it gives us some empirical data that a lot of people will think people are speeding, and in some of the smaller neighborhoods, it certainly looks like they are. And then we pull the data after a week or 7 days or so of that traffic box being in a neighborhood, and we see the average speed is 27 miles an hour, for instance, in a 25 mile an hour zone. So it gives us a little bit of data to be able to come back and say, well, it might look like they're speeding because the neighborhood is a smaller one. The data demonstrates that they're really not, and it allows us to very efficiently allocate our limited resources. Keep in mind that we are allocated for 65 officers right now. We've been operating about 10 short. That's a lot of officers. That's almost an entire shift short of officers. Now, we've improved on that significantly in the last several months, and working in conjunction with the FOP representation, we completely changed how it is that we do our hiring processes, and have been very successful in doing our hiring processes in a different way. There was a time that we would literally do what would almost be like an NFL combine, where we would have 100+ people invited, officer candidates invited, and one day they would do a physical agility test and then a written test in the afternoon for those who passed the physical agility test. If we would invite 100 people to that, we would traditionally get about 50% of them to show up. Last couple of times we did large invitations like that, we're lucky if we got 20 people to show up. That's not unique to Lawrence. That's something that every police department in central Indiana, in fact throughout the country, is experiencing. So our FOP and our administration went to work collaboratively and applied some new processes where we're inviting fewer people, probably doing a better job of staying in touch with them, but we're really focusing on the quality of candidates instead of the quantity of candidates. And that's been pretty successful. So we're going to continue with that process that we have implemented now, where we're doing more processes throughout the year, but we're inviting less people per process. We might invite 30 people, for instance, as opposed to 100, and maybe get 11 to 15 show up, and out of that we may get 5 candidates that actually pass all the testing. So, and we're not going to lessen our standards. That is the biggest thing that we are all committed to, and Chief Bigsby remains committed to that. We are not going to lower our standards when it comes to hiring. Anyway, kind of got off on the hiring thing there. So we do not have mobile surveillance trailers. If we can afford one moving forward, we may ask our friends on the council for one moving forward. We'll see what that looks like for the 2024 budget. But as far as the recent acts of violence, I can tell you just today, Chief Bigsby convened a command staff meeting. Out of that came several thoughts. One of them, we are authorizing a good amount of overtime for officers to come in extra to patrol our parks, to patrol some of the neighborhoods, some of those hot spots that have popped up. We've seen this before. and crime is cyclical. This is nothing we haven't seen before. I don't want to be cavalier about saying that, because Lawrence and overall is a very, very, very safe community to be in, and we're very proud of that. But certainly the incident that happened in Lawrence Park overnight was disturbing for all of us. Myself, the mayor, Deputy Mayor Hoffman, a lot of us, we played in that park as kids ourselves. The mayor grew up right across the street from there. I grew up just down the street from there. So when I say to you, we take ownership of that. We take it very serious. I was out there last night. I saw all those shell casings on the ground. It is absolutely unacceptable that an incident like that would be visited here in our community. And our first responding officers and our detectives work incredibly. They just do amazing work as far as identifying who's responsible for committing crimes like this and holding them accountable in the criminal justice system. They really do magnificent work. So we're putting overtime out there for additional patrols and additional officers. There'll be both marked and unmarked cars and officers out there. There'll be some specialty units. We have a detective at a unit called the Indiana Crime Guns Task Force. That's 20 detectives who are focused on crimes like occurred last night and focusing on the people who are the trigger pullers in those incidents. So our detective is already mobilized the Crime Guns Task Force unit, and we're going to be focusing some of those resources here in Lawrence in the next coming days too. We already are, they already have been, but we'll continue to do that. So what can citizens do to help us? As cliche as it sounds, if you see something, say something. I know that sounds like super cliche. It's like an advertisement we see on TV and all that, but it works. You are the eyes and ears. You as citizens out there, as people who are living in the neighborhoods, driving around, you see things that we don't necessarily see. And for you to share that information with us is absolutely critical. If we can be proactive and prevent something from happening before it happens, like we saw in the park last night, we're well ahead of the game if we can do that. So if you see something, literally, it can be something that seems relatively innocuous. Well, I'm not sure whether I should call the police on this or not. Call us. We'll respond. We'll come out and check it out. And we'd rather respond to some incidents that, maybe aren't quite what they saw, or maybe just seeing a police car roll through a neighborhood might prevent something from happening. And so literally being the eyes and ears of your community, of our community, is one of the best things that people can do for us. And literally, if you see something, say something, and give us that opportunity to respond and hopefully proactively prevent something from happening. I can tell you, I will put our response time here in Lawrence, our police and fire response time here in Lawrence, up against anybody's. Any other community that I know of, our response time is amazing. Our first responding officers, when we get a report of something, especially if it's a crime in progress, they are on it. I see a few heads kind of nodding up and down, but the difference, I think one of the differences here in Lawrence is us. We know you. Here's our long-serving, how many years, Tom, for you? A bunch, a whole bunch. Retired member, Tom Ashcraft, sitting here in the audience, who just retired last year from LPD. And he's seen all the changes, as of many of us. But my point is that with people like him who have been there and done that, and the next generation of just amazing police officers. The officers that are coming in now are so up on technology. A lot of this technology we're giving them to leverage is that we're putting out there. I'm of the age group that we were lucky to turn on our Texas Instruments calculators. Not that I'm aging myself, but I am. But these officers are just amazing when it comes to technology and their desire to want to detect and interdict crimes from happening. So we're very proud of that. So did I address everything that needed to be addressed in this?
You did. Thank you so much. And we did have a question about speed. And so Thomas Sanchez mentioned that about Winding Ridge. And you talked about some of the different tools you use there too to help. So thank you for, that's our police department and our fire department. Our public safety officers are always looking ahead and figuring out what's going on. So thank you for answering that question. Deputy Chief Woodruff mentioned about the care and the pride in this community. He talked about, growing up here. I have been part of Mayor Collier's administration for about 2 years, and that is something that I can say, that the joy that comes from working with people who are so dedicated across every single department to help serve our citizens of Lawrence. It is truly an honor to be part of a team like this. So now we want to move to our next step. So we are going to talk about some departmental needs. We are going to have our chief of fire as well as our police department talk a little bit about some of the ARPA requests. And Dino, you haven't had the opportunity to speak yet. So as you do, also please share some information that you would like the community to know about your fire, the Lawrence Fire Department, and how they work and what they do.
Okay, thanks, Corey. First of all, we do have a huge outreach program in the city. It's mainly towards the kids. There's about 1,200 Lawrence Township kids that we bring through the firehouses every year to teach them about fire safety. We're in the HOAs. That's becoming more popular where we're asked to come in and give safety talks, come and show the equipment off to some of the kids, and basically want to make sure that, in case of fire, little kids have a tendency to hide from firefighters because they've got the mask on and they look kind of scary. So we try to get them involved with the firefighters, put them in full gear, put them on their knees, and let the firefighters talk to them through the mask so they get used to that. We don't want them to run from us. So it's about education, meeting place. If your house on fire, where's the meeting place outside? Changing your batteries, and we tell on your birthday, remind your parent. Nobody forgets when their birthday is, so tell your parents on your birthday it's time to replace the batteries in your smoke detectors. So it's hard. We don't know. It's hard to tell the value of that. But if it just saves one life, it's well worth our effort. And we don't know. It's things that's not really tangible unless you actually see it. So we encourage the questions. We have parents bring the kids bring their to the firehouse, and we enjoy that. The firefighters have no issues with showing the equipment, giving safety talks, passing out literature. So we enjoy all that. Public safety, and this is, I think, as far as police and the fire are concerned, it's truly a public safety team, and nothing got put to the test more than we went through COVID, because it definitely had to be a strong team, not only to protect our citizens, but to protect ourselves. And I know that we tried, the fire department has a lot more PPE than the police department did. So on like a lot of nonviolent runs, the firefighters were going in there first, never in harm's way as far as some criminal activity going on. But we wanted to make sure that we could protect our police officers, because we do have a lot more equipment than they have for safety reasons. Starting off we had something that affected the police and fire department when we started our positions in 2016. It seemed like everything needed to be replaced at one time. And through the efforts of the mayor and Jason Fenwick and Tyler, they got a replacement plan going. And it's just something that you don't ever want to get in a position where all your equipment has to be replaced at one time. It may not have a big effect right then, but there does have a trickle down, and it does affect debt service. And the reason I bring that up is part of this ARP funding is to help reduce some of that debt service so we can continue on that plan, so this administration or any administration that follows never runs into a position where everything has to be replaced at once. And we want to make sure that the police and fire and the EMS have up-to-date equipment to respond. And the better that we can facilitate that, the better service we can provide to our citizens. And that's who our employer is. The citizens of Lawrence is who we work for. And we want to be able to keep that service up at a high scale, but we can only do that by using up-to-date equipment. It's not about, hey, having a brand new shiny fire truck, but we were using equipment that was 15, 17 years old, and the use of a fire apparatus is usually 5 to 7 years, depending on the run load and what type of equipment it is. So when we went to do these last couple budgets, I've been asked, and I'm going to bring this up because I've had some citizens ask this question, well, they go like, we've heard you ask about this ARP money. Why is this so imperative? It's just that when we went to do our budget the last couple of years, there's some stuff we couldn't put into the budget because it just wouldn't be balanced. And we had counselors, including the former president of the council, say, if there's a need arises, that come to the council, and we'll do the appropriations to get that equipment needed, both on the police and fire. And we were told that on more than one occasion. And just in general, and I'm really trying to keep politics out of this thing, but the truth is the truth. I mean, we got money sitting there that's sitting there while there's desperate need for use of that money. We've got a fire tower down here that we use. We share resources across the county. This tower hasn't been touched in 23 years. Roofing, siding, doors, the windows, it's rusted. There's one electrical outlet for those 4 floors you see there. We have one electrical outlet. And that stuff sits there, and it prohibits us doing good quality training. So it does aggravate me that, this isn't money that might be there. This is money that's sitting there that could be used now to further along all the departments, not just the fire department or the police department. But like Deputy Mayor Hoffman said, there's certain things you can use that money for, and everything that's been put on that list, it qualifies to use that money for. Even for the finance committee, we were asked to do the scope of work, how much it costs, take pictures. We've done everything they've asked to present and try to paint a picture as realistic as we can. I just find it real difficult. I've been with the city for over 35 years, and I just hate to see the progress stop. And everybody can take credit for where the city's at. All the counselor, it doesn't make a difference what party you're from. Everybody in the city, citizens, workers, everybody can share in that success of where the city's at. So it's not just one group. I've never heard the mayor one time give only one person or a few people credit. It's this entire city. If you look for where we were 7 years ago up till now, it takes everybody to build the city to where it's at. And I'm proud to have been here. And Sharon, I know I've said this before, but in the 35 years I've been at the city, you are the only counselor I've seen almost at every single event. And I think that speaks highly of your caliber, and that's what I think a true counselor, because she gets herself out there, and she's there if people need something answered, and she's just she's a great asset to have as far as somebody that listens to our needs. So I'll quit rambling. I'll take questions, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of where we were and why this ARP money is so important to improve public safety. And like I said, I think I speak for everybody that we feel like that we have to provide a great service to this city, and you deserve the services we provide, but we have to have the equipment to provide that.
Dina, if you could hold tight 1 minute there before we go in, because we kind of had these different slides up there. So we were going to kind of go through those, but quickly, there's the engine, and that there also. If you could talk a little bit about, on the police side, Gary, if you could talk a little bit about those vehicles that you're looking for as well.
Okay. Well, the fire engine, these costs have gone up unbelievable. So those engines, that one that's listed for $700,000, 6 years ago, that engine was $540,000. And now look at this cost. That's just in 2 or 3 years. And it's just like the cost of steel. And I just asked one of the manufacturers 2 weeks ago, I go like, car prices are coming down a little bit, but this apparatus stuff is going up, so something's got to give somewhere. But stuff's gotten to be so expensive, and you have to have the maintenance that goes along with this. So I know that sounds like a lot of money. Those engines there, they'll get about 5 to 7 years of use. A ladder truck will get a little bit longer than that. You can probably get a good 8 to 10 years out of a ladder truck. But the stuff's expensive, and the ambulance, that $350,000, those ambulances just a few years back were $162,000. And so there's just been a huge cost increase. And I mean, I hate to see that. I know things go up, but I just think that the percentage of increase has been just a little bit high. That engine, we ordered an engine. Right now, you could bank on about 8 to 12 months getting a fire engine in. It's a 2-year wait. We ordered a new ladder truck last year in 22. They told us it was going to be here in the fall of 24. Now it's got pushed till the spring of 2025. So you can see the lead time, and cars are cars are at least a year or more wait, but this is why we have to act now. We don't want to wait and wait till this time comes up, because we're going to get ourselves right back behind the 8 ball. That's why it's so important that that we use this ARP money for the stuff, and everything's out in the open. I mean, nobody's trying to hide any expenses. It's all there. The scope, the whole thing's there. I'm not sure what else we can do as the police chief or the fire chief or some of these other departments I mean, we've done everything they've asked for, and that money just sits there.
You want me to continue here on the police side?
Speak a little bit about your vehicles, and then I want Tyler to share a little data with you.
We'll speak very quickly about that. So when it comes to replacing police vehicles, first of all, law enforcement operations have changed over the years, and our officers' vehicles are literally their mobile offices. The days of your police officers sitting in our very nice police station we're very happy to have. We finally moved out of our parents' basement and got a place of our own. Woo, we're glad about that. But our vehicles are literally our officers' mobile offices. And to invest in the fleet and to continue to replace that fleet, it is a critical need. Other than perhaps our staffing needs, our vehicles are the most utilized tool that we have in the police officer's toolbox. You know, if we're not mobile responding to calls for service, then we're not being very effective. So to replace those vehicles, let me share a little story with you about what happened to our friends at Speedway Police. They ordered 2022 vehicles. They ordered them a little late, didn't receive them until 2023. Each vehicle cost went up $10,000 per vehicle. So if we wait and don't get our 10 vehicles ordered in 2023, we'll order them in 2024. We'll have to order 20 or 25 vehicles, and it will probably cost us thousands of dollars more because vehicle costs go up every year, right? Think about buying a new car last year as opposed to this year. Vehicle costs go up, equipment costs go up. So that's one of our big concerns. Secondarily, as I was saying, our vehicles are of critical need to our officers. They're the mobile billboards out there. They're the mobile offices for our officers, for our detectives, for everybody. And there is, other than personnel, there's no more critical need that we have than our 10 vehicles. So let's talk about the SWAT Bearcat. What is a SWAT Bearcat? What is that? Well, that is an armored vehicle that protects our officers and our citizens, especially our SWAT team members, when we have an incident that is occurring where we are facing a known armed potential adversary. All right, so when lives are literally on the line, we want an armored vehicle that is mobile enough to be able to get through any neighborhood and go anywhere we need it to go, and will protect our officers and protect our citizens. We have a armored vehicle right now that was a surplus vehicle we obtained from the military. It is 14 years old. We painted it all up so it looks like a police vehicle. We have it in the July 4th parade. We have it at our community safety day. Kids use it like a jungle gym when they're playing on it. There's no offensive capability there. It's just strictly a defensive armored vehicle. Without getting into too much detail, because the case is still pending prosecution, but in review, but we had an incident on January 10th where our armored vehicle saved our officers' lives, period. We got shot at by a committed person. Our officers, our SWAT team in particular, got shot at by a committed person who, our officers concluded that incident very decisively. But had it not been for our armored vehicle and the tactics and the training and the determination of our officers, we would be having an entirely different conversation right now. An entirely different conversation. That's as real as it gets, everyone. So we need to replace this armored vehicle that we have. It's 14 years old. Just putting tires on the thing costs $6,000. Replacing the brakes on our current vehicle costs $7,000. We've had to do that a couple of times. So before that vehicle has outserved its service life, we need to replace that vehicle, and we need to get a new one. That's what that SWAT Bearcat That's what that is. The $150,000, yeah, it's a lot of money. The actual cost of those vehicles is $300,000. Chief Bigsby applied for a grant through the Indiana Department of Homeland Security for a matching half of that. So we get $150,000 from the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. The other $150K comes through the ARPA funding. We get a brand new vehicle for half the price is what it amounts to due to grant funding. In our minds, that is a no-brainer when it comes to a proper expenditure of ARP funding. And we have been actively working with our council members to discuss this and to educate them on what these needs are, and we look forward to continuing to doing so. We're very grateful that they have met with us, and we hope that further consideration will be given to being able to make these purchases. And I think Tyler can speak a little bit more directly as to the financial model and how deep you're going to get on that. But turn it over to Tyler now, right?
Thank you. I won't get too far in the weeds because I don't want to put anyone to sleep. Just to.
We have one already sleeping.
Oh no, I'll be loud and wake him up.
First day of camp for a little one in the audience. It wore him out already.
So I want to take a moment to harp on the mayor because he won't do this and talk about where we got this funding from. So it did come from the federal government, but as an excluded city here in Marion County, we were not recognized as a city by the federal government. And so without the mayor's efforts and without the previous controller, Jason Fenwick, we would not have gotten these funds. So it's very important. He won't brag on himself, but I will every chance we can, because without his hard work, we wouldn't have this opportunity. So I really do appreciate him getting that for us, and it helps us do some great things like this. I think Senator Walker. So, we wouldn't have this without.
I'm sorry. It was a process, and I'm not going to brag on myself because I don't deserve to that, but it took some work. In lobbying with Senators Braun and Young and Sparks and Carson, who did help to actually write a letter, and the letter was penned and written by Lacey Johnson, who was a friend of mine from many years back, and he was on a part of the Biden transition team. And he got that letter in front of Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen, in her defense, had no idea what an excluded city was. Few people do. We're one of only two in the nation, quite frankly. So once Yellen understood that we were, in fact, our own separate city, and that we should be treated as such, that ARPA money then went to the state for distribution. Distribution was based primarily on population. And so we went from getting $700,000 in the CARES Act from that was the Trump era, to getting over $11 million in ARPA. And so it was a game changer for us.
Yeah, it's a good note. And even to the CARES Act funding, we didn't receive those. We had to lobby Indianapolis to give us our fair share. So again, without some leadership effort on Mayor Collier's end, we wouldn't be here today with this funding. And so it is important from a long-term funding perspective. So we've tried to maximize these funds to have the long-term impact. And that's what this is today, is to discuss some of these items. So what we do with a lot of these, you get a ladder, it's a 10-year useful life. You get the police vehicles are at 5-year useful lives. It's important to continually rotate them out so that you don't have dilapidated equipment like we've had in the past. So what we're really trying to do here is more about the procurement process. So we've always used financings because that was to help catch us up. But we're in a good place. What we're trying to do with the ARPA funds is take 1 year where we pay cash for these so we don't need to issue any new debt. And what that does, it will relieve the operating budgets of these two departments. And so everything kind of has this domino effect. And so you talk about having 65 officers budgeted, and we can only right now get 55. We've talked about needs of raising pay, increasing benefits. These are things that are hard to do when we have the funding challenges that we have. But if we can relieve a lot of the funds and move this debt service down and reestablish at a lower level, we can actually provide additional funds into the operating fund without actually increasing the budget. So it does allow us to put those funds into a recurring use like pay or benefits to help fill those positions. So it does have a really important use from a long-term perspective. These are really obvious needs that we've got here. One of the things that we're kind of want to clarify too is we're really looking for help from a lot of people too. We want to make sure that everyone knows why we need these. And with Councilor Freeman's help, she sat down and listened to what I had to say about the long-term impact, and she recalls in the budget workshops last year talking about this need. So we're here trying to address that. Again, it's going to have a long-term impact for our operations. So we want to make sure everyone kind of understands why we need these funds, and it's still on the agenda. So we want to make sure that, if you have any questions or who to contact, you can contact your council member and let them know, how you feel about it. But we want to make sure you understand really the long-term importance of some of these things and why they're needed. Even to the street department end, we did budget $1 million in the restricted funds. So those funds have to be used on paving or strip patching. We put $1 million in there this year, and that allows us to do the paving for CCMG. But by putting that into ARP, that $1 million can be used on the strip patching. So, we don't want to push too many things down the road and make things worse. So right now, we're just really trying to address a lot of things up front to make really our future expenditures a little lighter on us, so we can make sure that we're focusing on tackling all of our needs.
Thank you. Well said, Tyler. Okay, a few of the other things, just so you see where some of the other spending is going. There was the fire department, the facility repairs for our tower. Dino discussed that a little bit. That's about $42,000. We also have some fire education and training for $10,000. And we also are in need of expanding our body cams. We need 8 more body cams, 4 for our merit officers and 4 for our reserves. And then also there is a subscription for our flock cameras. And do you want to share a little bit, Gary, about flock cameras and what they do, and body cams for that matter?
Yeah, I'm glad to. The body-worn camera program that we initiated has been one of the better things that we have done. We started down that path. We did that without being responsive to an incident that occurred. Dave Hoffman was the chief then and really spearheaded that whole initiative. And it's been very successful outfitting our officers with body-worn cameras. And at first there was a little bit of concern about that, but I think now officers realize that the benefits far outweigh any of the downsides, and I think everybody else sees that as well. So when we first got them, we had 44 body-worn cameras for all of our officers that were in the operations or the patrol uniform division. The officers are out there patrolling, responding to calls for service, et cetera. So as we added staff, as we added additional officers, we needed more body-worn cameras. We also wanted to outfit our reserves, and it gives me a moment to kind of brag on our reserve program, but we have several officers who volunteer their time for free to come out and be police officers. They are fully trained like any other police officer. Most of them are already Indiana Law Enforcement Academy graduates. If they're not, we will train them with the exact same number of hours that they would receive at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. And frankly, they have spoiled us over the years. They do as much. They donate as much time as many full-time officers do. So our reserve officers are just amazing. So it's only fair that if they're out there working in uniform and responding to calls for service, we outfit them with body-worn cameras as well. So that's what that is primarily for. The flock cameras, those are license plate reader cameras that are on public streets. They're not looking at your residences. They're not violating anybody's privacy. They're on public streets, the same as anybody else can look on any public street, and they're viewing vehicles that are driving down the road. How does that benefit us? If we have an incident, most of the time people are driving to and from that incident. It allows our officers and our detectives to be able to review those cameras and identify the vehicles that were involved, identify the vehicle, identify the person, and it gives us great lead information to be able to solve crimes. We have solved, according to our detectives, and we have one of our hardworking detectives here in the back who can probably verify this if he wants to, but we have solved more crimes using the flock cameras than probably any other tool we've had in years. Is that an accurate statement? Yeah, it's amazing technology, and not only are they the ones in Lawrence that are in use, but we also have access to the ones that are in Indianapolis, in McCordsville, in Avon, in Hamilton County, in Hendricks County, Hancock County, Greenwood, all over the central Indiana area here. People that are committing crime in Lawrence are also committing crime in Indianapolis. They're also going up to Carmel. They're going out to Avon. It allows the detectives to track those individuals who are committing crime, and not just in Lawrence, but in other areas, and hold them accountable for their actions. So the further investment in flock cameras is a really big deal. Again, that's a grant that Chief Bigsby wrote. He was and still is, even as chief, our primary grant writer, and has literally written grants for upwards of in the millions of dollars that we've received in grant funding, including flock cameras. So we want to expand that program. And like I mentioned before, I'll briefly hit on it here. I know we need to move on, but our hiring process that we have done, when we started the year out, we didn't necessarily anticipate we were going to be changing that process like we did. So if we want to continue to do these processes, which we do, we've done more of them this year. We need a little bit more money to be able to help with that, to advertise that, to be able to pay for. We actually pay an outside vendor to run a fair and impartial process. We pay an outside vendor to oversee the testing with us. That's part of our Merit Commission law that we have, and that costs money. So that's what that $15,000 is for. And to give you an example of the quality of officer that is being produced, I mentioned we got to as low as 55 officers. We're up to 59 now, full-time sworn officers. We're allocated for 65. But the most recent ones that we hired, we recruited one certified police officer from Martinsville, a female officer who's doing a great job. One certified police officer from Beech Grove Police Department who came and joined us, who's also a female officer, and then an officer who was with the Richmond Police Department. These are already certified police officers that were with other agencies that decided they wanted to come here and work in Lawrence. What does that do for us? All we have to do is put them into the field training car, with a field training officer, show them the roads, teach them the streets here. We don't have to teach them how to be cops. They already know that. It also saves us money. We don't have to send them to the law enforcement academy. They've already been. They're certified. So it's a win-win for all of us, and with the two female officers in particular, it increases, our demographic representation, which we're always looking for. We're looking for our police department to reflect what the community looks like. So we're particularly proud of that. The officer that came from Richmond, he was a field training officer in Richmond Police Department. He was a member of the SWAT team there. So we're talking a really experienced, highly trained individual that we were able to bring here onto our department. And after just a few weeks of training, he's on his own now and working. Where with a brand new officer who has to still attend the law enforcement academy, it might be a year before we get them on the street. Where with these officers, we were able to do it in a matter of weeks. So that's the result of these more efficient hiring processes that we are doing. We're being successful in attracting officers from other agencies, certified police officers. That's a win for the entire community.
Thank you very much. Thanks to our public safety experts. We appreciate all your insight. The very last request on our ARP is $280,000 in a Next Level Trails grant match. The City of Lawrence received $1.7 million from the DNR to put in a trail. You'll see it's going from Lee Road Park to 63rd Street, and then on 63rd Street it goes east to Winona Drive. So connecting our communities is important, and one of the ways that we can make that happen, and you heard so many times this evening, is a grant or a matching grant or a grant here, grant there. We do a lot to try to be able to extend or look for other resources that we can use to be able to enhance our community and stretch our dollars to get as much done as possible for you, our citizens. So we're excited about this trail. We look to continue to have more trails and continue to look for opportunities for grants, not just here, but through the many ways that you heard with our streets, our public safety, our utilities. We continue to always look for things there. Now we're going to change things up, and I'm going to come out. I said you needed to submit your questions in writing, but you know what? You've been patient. You've been listening. So I would like to turn the mic over to anyone who has a question so that you can ask those questions. And some of our subject area experts here, our department heads, will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Here you go. If you could state your name and then ask your question.
My name's Dave McCullough. This relates to the police vehicles. I didn't understand the one slide on the dollar amount for 10 vehicles at $40,000 at each.
Each vehicle, so that is a total of $400,000 on that slide. It's $40,000 per. I saw.
That's not for the equipment that goes in. That's just the vehicle.
I saw you had a question.
Yeah, my name is Bill Ross. Questions for Dino. Why do we carry the paramedic on a ladder truck?
We do carry paramedics on the engines and ladders because. Okay. We carry, as most fire departments do, we carry paramedics on all the vehicles. And the reason for that, there's some cases where those ambulances are out, so we can start treatment right away. They've got ALS equipment on those engines and ladders. ALS is advanced life support. So they can do almost just as much on the scene as they can in an emergency room. In fact, some of the protocols even changed. Like now, if somebody's in cardiac arrest, they want us to work in 20 or 30 minutes on the scene to get those drugs in them and start working them, and then they'll transport. But there's a lot of cases because there's so many transports, we want care to be given to those people right away. So the most efficient. And another question that tails off of that, they're like, well, we see an engine or a ladder truck found in an ambulance. Why is that? It depends on the nature of the call. The dispatcher can only go by what they're told on the phone. And if somebody's having chest pain, it's a lot easier to disregard that extra equipment. But if somebody's in cardiac arrest, it takes 4 to 6 people to work that, and we want to give that person the best percentage of a sustaining life. So, like I said, depend on respiratory distress, gunshots, knifing, cardiac arrest. Those will all call for an ambulance and another piece of fire equipment to just enhance the response to do that. But that's basically why. And like, so if a good example is like if our ambulance that's on the west side of Lawrence is out of service or they're on another run, that engine's still in that house and can provide medical care until that ambulance arrives.
Okay, and we have another question over here.
Hi, my name is Rob Schlafer, and this question is for Councilor Freeman. Thank you for participating in tonight's town hall. As citizens, we've seen the positive impact from the 2022 ARP funding that was approved by council. And we've heard tonight that the progress that's currently on hold awaiting the approval of the 2023 ARP allocation. Question is, what can the council do now to approve the 2023 ARP funding so the citizens can continue to see Lawrence move forward?
Okay, I can only speak for my District 3. I'm not really sure what the other councilors have in mind or how their plans are to bring the rest of everything together, but I can only speak for my District 3, and you can see District 3 is booming. We have our library coming, we have like the hotels already there, we have 5 center, retail center coming, we have the civic center. I mean, everything's going on, but I'm not sure what's going on with the other councilors because I can't speak for them.
What's your position?
My position, I would like everything to go through smoothly. I mean, I'm looking at these police cars, and if we need 10 and we're ordering 10 now, but we really need 20, then we need to get it done. We need to work together to get it done.
And we do want to thank Councilor Freeman for being a sponsor of the ARPA plan that we have in place that is on the agenda. So thank you so much for that support. Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Zach Kramer. I live in District 5. Like you said, big reason we're all here is public safety. And while it is essential to address immediate crime concerns, it's equally important to tackle the root causes that contribute to the lack of safety in our neighborhoods. Therefore, my question for the panel is, what proactive programs or initiatives do you have in mind to address the underlying factors that lead to crime and insecurity? And how do you plan to collaborate with community organizations, law enforcement agencies, and social services to implement comprehensive strategies aimed at reducing rates of crime rather than going after the fact?
Yeah, we always try to be proactive and as opposed to being reactive. That is for sure. We do have several community outreach projects that we do. I'll give you, for instance, just this past Saturday, I spent 4 hours. Councilor Freeman was nice enough to come and join us for part of that, as was Deputy Mayor Hoffman and many others. In front of the Kroger, we did a Pack the Cruiser campaign. What does food insecurity have to do with crime? Well, sometimes people who are going to be out there looking to commit crime may do so literally because they're hungry, especially like petty theft, things of that nature. And once a person starts down that crime path, sometimes they continue down that crime path and wind up committing additional crimes or even worse crimes. So tackling that root cause, that potential root cause right there at the contact level where literally there were 3 police officers standing in front of Kroger asking for somebody who was shopping at Kroger to maybe spend another $10 in groceries and pack our cruiser. And I can tell you that the back of one of our SUV police vehicles was packed full of food for our Lawrence Township School food pantries. So that food that was collected on Saturday in a 4-hour period will be directly going to our Lawrence Township students who are experiencing food insecurity. So it's just one example of the things that we do. We have a licensed social worker that is our Crime Watch coordinator. So we will work with businesses, with HOAs, with our citizens to try to prevent crime from happening in the first place, to talk about strategies, talk about concepts called CEPTED, which is an acronym, cops and their acronyms, right, for improving a neighborhood so that it's less conducive to crimes occurring there. There's all kinds of things that we do, but I hope that partially helps answer your question away. That question is a really big picture answer. And but anytime we have the opportunity to be proactive as opposed to reactive, we try to do that. Having additional officers available to us will also afford our officers to be able to be more proactive than reactive. We've been somewhat in reaction mode for quite some time now. Now, a lot of our officers it's still Lawrence. They're still out there very aggressively responding to crimes or proactively seeking out people who may be looking to commit crime. But we can do more of that with more people, and we're working on that every day. So I hope that helps.
And also, when we told you we had those 11 or 1,200 kids come through, and I failed to mention, we also have the police there with us. So hopefully that interaction, getting to know the police officers and the firefighters and going through a police car. I mean, even to maybe some of those kids would be interested in a career in either law enforcement or the fire service. So I think that helped bridges some gaps too. And we try to make ourselves available to like the HOA. HOAs is a big, because you get a wide range of people there. And I've always enjoyed that because it gives us a chance to talk and mingle with the people. And I think that's just another outreach because there's some public safety entities that don't do that. And we've been fortunate that that's another place where it's a team effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share one more thing with you also. One of Chief Bigsby's initiatives that he talked about when he was appointed chief was he wants to start several youth programs. And one of the things, I hope I'm not getting out ahead of this, if you want to talk to it, go ahead, but he's talking about starting a teen academy, kind of like a citizens academy for teenagers. And we think that's a great idea, and that's one of the initiatives that Chief Bigsby feels very strongly about. And knowing him the way I know him, he's going to get that done. And that teen academy. So look for that. We do a citizens academy for adults. We just graduated almost 20 citizens from our latest
He's
Citizens
one of our
Academy.
graduates.
Right, absolutely.
Counselor Freeman.
is a Citizens Academy graduate, and we're grateful for that. There are a few others in the room as well. But having that teen academy, getting to these teenagers and having those positive interactions with law enforcement in a non-enforcement setting, that's a net positive for everyone.
One other thing that we do is we actually have partnered with Cafe, and we host 2 job fairs, one in spring and one in fall. So again, where unemployment can be a concern, and again, create those needs and start with petty theft to meet some of the needs and grow. So a lot of different preventative things like that. We're working as a community. So the crime prevention officer and the mayor's office continue to look for other partnerships like with Cafe to be able to host and do those types of events to really help reduce crime.
And Corey, another thing, Safety Day is another opportunity. It's a free event for families. The police and fire and EMS is there. They have static displays. They also do demonstrations, and we slow everything down. And it's probably one of the best ways for the public to see what we do and keep them out of harm's way. But we've been doing that for several years. And like I said, there's not very many events that are free to families, and we make a point that people aren't there to sell products. They have to be in the community giving stuff away, and it's a great day for a family. And it's only like 4 hours long, but we get a great turnout from the community, and that's another way to interact with not only just the police and fire, but all our departments in the city.
August 12th, be there, be square. We also have National Night Out. Dave reminded me of that one too. So, I mean, you can tell the list goes on and on. But the neat thing about our National Night Out is that we go to our communities. If we have it one place, we know that some of our families may have one car and that's being used because one person's going to work. And so we try to eliminate those transportation barriers, and we go out into the community to really visit throughout Lawrence. Our sleepy little one over there was the person I got to experience my first National Night Out with as a citizen before I was working, and he was so excited when the first group showed up, and they were all police officers, and he was very disappointed because the fire truck wasn't there yet. So, and there is a funny picture. Yes, and you know what? We're going to let Dave continue here.
There are so many things that we do in Lawrence to reach out to the underserved. It's unbelievable. As was mentioned, we meet monthly with Cafe it's a big round table of community service providers that come out, and we all talk about what we're doing so that we all know. Corey's going to talk in just 1 minute here about a thing called Community Champions. But more than that, also, during my time as chief, with the support of the command staff and the fire chief and his team, we hired a full-time community engagement specialist who happens to be a reserve police officer and leads our chaplains unit. So when one of our officers administers Narcan to somebody with a substance abuse disorder, there's follow-up to that. There's the next day the family gets called to, hey, what do you need? What can we do to help so that we don't have to administer Narcan again to somebody in the throes of a heroin overdose, for example. Homelessness, you mentioned that in your question. It's a big issue for every single person who doesn't have a place to sleep. But in Lawrence, we don't just run them off. When we get a call of somebody who might be sleeping in the woods, it's our community engagement officer that goes out to provide wraparound services, or to at least offer those services as best we can as a city. Not necessarily an enforcement effort. We're not trying to lock anybody up. We're just trying to get them resources that they need. We work very closely with the IMPD East District because we know a lot of that population is transient. Exactly. The border along 42nd Street or 46th Street is meaningless to folks who are in need. So we work very closely with families as well. And I know that's gonna continue because it's been so well received. And maybe you can wrap up with your community champions, because we cannot leave that off the answer.
Thank you. So we recently started a new initiative called Community Champions, and that is bringing together nonprofits who serve our community. So it's small nonprofits like Maddie Smiles, all the way to Community Health Network and the Jane Pauley Clinic, and we all get together and we have meetings where we exchange ideas and look at how we can help each other. But what happened with all of that is we also have a resource page that is being built out on our city website so that any citizen has access to find out what services are there. Also, Community Health Network just sent us their white label, so there's also another resource that goes beyond that, that reaches out beyond the Lawrence community. So our site is focused on what's in Lawrence, and then people, if they can't find what they need, can access beyond that. So that's going to be updated in the next week. Tomorrow, the committee is meeting, and we're approving the calendar. So we are actually going to have a community calendar on our website. So also, when there are resource fairs and different things like that happening, there's a place that if you have someone you know who needs that, you can go right to that calendar and help guide them where to go or what they might need. So we're really excited because we really believe that we have an amazing community that wants to help each other, and how we champion and come together to help our community is huge, but we have to create those resources so people have access to find the information that they need.
Corey, can I share one more thing, please? So another to your point there, for years there's been a project underway here in Lawrence called Laundry and More. And if you've never heard of that, it's a pretty amazing thing. But the laundromat there at 42nd and Post, arguably an underserved part of the community here, they will offer free laundry services to families. We get referrals from the Lawrence Township Schools. We also get referrals from the trustee's office. And basically people can come there and get their laundry done for free. I learned something entirely new about that. I had no idea that the leading cause of bullying for students in schools is because they don't have clean clothes to wear. I had no idea that was the reason for that. So every Tuesday, families who are in need of that service can come and get their laundry done for them. At the same time, we'll have the CAFE, which that stands for Community Affairs of the Far East Side, and a myriad of other resources and referral agencies there to be able to provide support to these families. So, and we actually applied for a grant through Project Safe Neighborhoods through the United States Attorney's Office and Department of Justice to get that project up and running. And I think it's another thing that Chief Bigsby did in applying for that. So those are just so many examples of some of the things that we're doing. That Laundry More has been up and running now for how many years now? 4 years? Yeah. It's really been one of the premier initiatives that has occurred throughout the city here on the Far East Side. Very impressive.
I'm sure you got more information than you were probably thinking you were going to get there, but we are excited and passionate about helping our community. There is a question here.
Thank you. This one is about the streets. 56th Street, is that Lawrence or is that Indianapolis? And then, real quick, the ARP fund, is that a yearly fund? And then where if the money in the budget doesn't get used for the streets this year, will we have it available next year, and will we be behind like an 8 ball? You know,
I didn't hear your question.
Talk about
56. You're talking about 56th Street over here in.
Yeah, all the way through.
That's actually an Indianapolis thoroughfare. That's really not ours too. All we do is maintain it, which means chuck holes and all that. As far as restoration, new construction, that's on Indianapolis.
So if we have to strip patch or anything, that would be Indianapolis.
Yeah, you'd like to think so.
Okay.
You'd like to think so.
We have gone back and forth on streets that Indianapolis is responsible for. And there are several streets that are newly paved. 79th Street, for example, is an Indianapolis street. It's a thoroughfare. There's a point at which you just say, basically, the heck with it. Let's get it done if we can. And so, to Jim's credit, he does the best he can in maintaining and strip patching and paving. But there are times we just have to simply say, for the safety of our citizens, we're going to have to go ahead and spend MVH funding, whatever it may take, to get these streets paved. 79th Street is a classic example of that. Anybody who drove that street, it was like driving through a street in Fallujah for a while. And so we got that paved, and we will continue to do that. German Church Road is another example of one that we paved. That really wasn't ours, but we're no longer concerned about what's ours and what's theirs. We're at the point now we can do ours and take care of that. I'm not going to pave any Indianapolis streets, so I can tell you that right now. So our funding is a one-time deal. It was a response to the pandemic. This money was think of it as a one-time grant. It's grant money, and once it's spent, it's gone.
We have about 3 minutes before we do some of our wrap-up comments. Do we have any other questions? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank our panelists also for being here. But hopefully you have your questions answered. But if not, you can always go online, and there is a thing called Mayor Mail there, and you are welcome to submit your questions through Mayor Mail. And what happens there is it kind of gets triaged to the right department to be able to answer your questions. Also, as a reminder, you can always reach your counselor if you have questions. There is a list in the back of all the council members by district with a map on the back of the page. And it has their contact information. So feel free to pick one of those up. A recording of this meeting and a written version of the questions will be available on the website beginning June 12th. We gave ourselves a couple extra days because we're going to have to do some transcribing since we didn't have the questions submitted in writing. Now you know one of the benefits of getting them in writing is it saves us a little bit there. Please remember to pick up any of the other handouts that you want. The Fort Bend Farmers Market has begun every Thursday night from 4 to 7. Come on over to the Fort Bend Cultural Campus. There are about 35 vendors there every week, so it's exciting to watch that market grow. Last year it doubled in size, and now we have about a third more vendors than we had the previous year, so it continues to grow, and I am sure you will find something there you need to purchase. Then join us on Saturday, June 17th. Arts for Lawrence is hosting their Juneteenth Jubilee, and we are thrilled to be part of that event with them. It is also held at the Fort Bend Cultural Campus, and that will take place from 4 to 9 outside, and then I think it's at 9:30, Scooter, is that when the after show starts? There's also a show in the theater. And lastly, our next town hall is scheduled for Thursday, July 13th. But as promised, we really wanted to go out into our community as well. And so that one will be taking place at Coron's Manufactured Homes, and it starts at 6 p.m. It is open to the public, not just the residents of the Coron communities. It is open to everyone. So please join us on July 13th. You will also see that you can submit questions online there. And again, depending on the size and how much transcribing we have to do, we may open it up, but if it's a large group, we do ask that you submit your questions in writing. So it just helps us in making sure we're getting that information out to everybody who could not make it to the event. So again, thank you so much. A round of applause for our panelists. We appreciate you and have a wonderful evening.